Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the glamorous and often treacherous world of Los Angeles fashion. Today is a thrilling day to unpack the latest scandals. So grab your favorite beverage and let's explore the explosive drama awaiting us. The glittering facade of Forrester Creations is about to crack under the immense pressure of toxic rivalries and unchecked egos. The executive suites of the legendary fashion house have always been a battleground, but the events unfolding on Monday, June 1st, will shift the power dynamics in ways that will leave lasting scars on everyone involved. The simmering tension between the Forrester and Spencer dynasties is reaching a boiling point, and the fallout from a single night of violence is about to detonate, destroying careers, shattering fragile romances, and forcing characters to confront the darkest corners of their own morality. The brutal aftermath of the Bikini Bar grand reopening is here, and no one will escape the collateral damage. Inside the sleek, glass-walled confines of the Forrester Creations executive office, the atmosphere is thick with an almost suffocating tension. R.J. Forrester, bruised but emboldened by a toxic cocktail of physical pain and arrogant vindication, takes center stage. He has spent the last few days nursing the bruised ribs he sustained from a violent altercation, but the physical discomfort is entirely eclipsed by his burning desire for retribution. RJ firmly believes that his status as the son of Ridge Forrester and Brooke Logan grants him a certain untouchable immunity within the company walls. When he confronts Will Spencer, RJ does not just speak as a fellow employee. He attempts to wield the heavy authority of the Forrester name, smugly informing Will that his time at the fashion house has come to an abrupt and disgraceful end. Will Spencer, however, is not a man who easily bows to intimidation, especially not from someone he views as a pampered beneficiary of blatant nepotism. Will's Spencer pride flares instantly, his defense mechanisms kicking into overdrive. He fiercely pushes back against RJ's declarations, his voice dripping with condescension and defiant rage. Will sharply reminds RJ that despite his prestigious last name, RJ does not run the fashion house. He explicitly points out that RJ lacks the executive authority to terminate anyone's employment, let alone a Spencer. In Will's mind, RJ is nothing more than a spoiled prince playing dress-up in his father's kingdom, and Will refuses to be exiled by a man he so deeply disrespects. The verbal sparring is vicious, a masterclass in bruised male egos clashing over territory and pride. However, the illusion of Will's security is entirely shattered by the dramatic and authoritative entrance of Ridge Forrester. The patriarch of the Forrester family steps into the room, carrying the immense weight of both a protective father and a ruthless chief executive officer. Ridge's face is a mask of stoic disappointment, but his eyes burn with a fierce, uncompromising resolve. He has spent his entire life trying to navigate the messy intersection of family loyalty and corporate responsibility, but the line has been crossed in a way he cannot ignore. Ridge does not mince words. He cuts directly through Will's defiant posturing with a statement that leaves no room for negotiation. "You assaulted my son," Ridge declares, his voice a low, dangerous rumble that echoes off the glass walls of the office. The accusation hangs in the air, heavy and undeniable. Ridge makes it abundantly clear that while he's tolerated a great deal of interpersonal drama within the walls of Forrester Creations, physical violence is an absolute, non-negotiable boundary. He informs Will that the company simply cannot and will not tolerate this kind of barbaric behavior. The diagnosis from Dr. Finn Finnegan, confirming RJ's bruised ribs, serves as the undeniable medical evidence that forces Ridge's hand. He is no longer just a CEO managing a staff dispute. He is a father fiercely protecting his bloodline from a perceived Spencer threat. Cornered and desperate, Will attempts to mount a frantic defense. The psychological breakdown of his confident facade is painful to witness. Will tries to justify his actions, desperately trying to paint a picture of the events at the Bikini Bar that casts him as the provoked victim rather than the violent aggressor. He points to RJ's relentless arrogance, his toxic jealousy over Electra Forrester, and the incessant verbal needling that pushed Will over the edge. Will argues that RJ's emotional manipulation and entitlement were the true catalyst for the physical altercation. But his desperate pleas fall on deaf ears. In the corporate world, and especially in Ridge's eyes, a verbal provocation never justifies a physical assault. Every excuse Will offers only serves to dig his grave deeper, highlighting his inability to take accountability for his explosive temper. The situation goes from bad to worse for Will as Steffy Forrester Finnegan joins the fray. Steffy has never made a secret of her deep-seated anti-Spencer bias, and she relishes the opportunity to purge the company of what she views as a toxic presence. Steffy's icy demeanor perfectly complements Ridge's fiery paternal anger. Together, the father-daughter co-CEO duo presents a united, impenetrable front. They coldly inform a devastated Will that he needs to pack his belongings and leave the premises immediately. His employment at Forrester Creations is officially terminated. The sheer humiliation of being unceremoniously kicked out of the building by his rivals is a bitter pill for Will to swallow, a devastating blow to his career and his towering ego. But Will Spencer does not leave quietly. As the reality of his termination sets in, his desperation morphs into a dark, chilling vindictiveness. Before he walks out the door, stripped of his title and his dignity, Will turns his piercing gaze onto RJ. The air in the room seems to freeze as Will issues a dark, ominous threat. He promises RJ, with absolute, terrifying certainty, that he will regret messing with him. This is not just a casual parting shot. It is a vow of retribution from a man who has just lost everything and blames RJ entirely for his downfall. The chilling nature of Will's threat casts a long, dark shadow over RJ's triumphant victory, suggesting that the war between these two men has only just begun. While the corporate world at Forrester Creations is burning to the ground, a starkly different scene is unfolding miles away. Electra Forrester is currently existing in a state of absolute, unadulterated euphoria. After enduring weeks of emotional manipulation, the trauma of the deepfake scandal, and the heartbreaking realization that her own aunt, Ivy Forrester, actively sabotaged her romantic happiness, Electra finally believes she has found her sanctuary. She and Will have not only managed to repair their fractured relationship, but they have taken a massive leap forward. Will has asked her to move into the Spencer Beach house with him, and Electra has joyfully accepted. She is floating on a cloud of romantic bliss, entirely convinced that the darkest days of her life are finally behind her. Electra's internal state is one of profound relief and radiant optimism. She views the beach house as a physical manifestation of her fresh start, a safe haven where she and Will can build a future free from the toxic interference of their respective families. She is busy planning her new life, completely oblivious to the catastrophic events that have just transpired at her family's company. Her heart is full. Her trust in Will has been fully restored, and she is eagerly anticipating the peace and stability that she so desperately craves. The tragic irony of her happiness is palpable, setting the stage for a devastating emotional collision. The harbinger of this impending heartbreak is Melissa Dillon. Dillon arrives to see Electra carrying a suffocating burden of truth. As a witness to the brutal events at Deacon Sharp's Bikini Bar grand reopening, Dillon is trapped in an agonizing moral dilemma. She loves Electra deeply and values their newly repaired friendship more than anything. Watching Electra glow with happiness over her reconciliation will tears at Dillon's conscience. Dillon herself is harboring dark secrets, namely, her hidden family connection to the dangerous Remy Price, which makes her acutely aware of how destructive lies of omission can be. Dillon knows that she cannot, in good conscience, allow Electra to move in with a man who is actively concealing a violent, explosive temper. The conversation between the two friends begins with a heavy, hesitant caution. Dillon gently probes the edges of Electra's blissful ignorance. She asks, with a voice laced with subtle dread, if we'll happen to mention how the grand reopening of the bikini bar ended. Electra's reaction is one of genuine, innocent confusion. She shakes her head, her smile faltering only slightly as she fails to grasp the gravity of Dylan's question. Electra assumes it was just another industry party, perhaps a bit rowdy, but nothing that would warrant Dylan's deeply concerned expression. The disconnect between Electra's pristine image of Will and the dark reality Dylan is about to unveil is heartbreakingly vast. Seeing that Will has chosen the path of deception, Dylan realizes she has no choice but to push through Electra's confusion. She takes a steadying breath and begins to dismantle Electra's perfect illusion piece by piece. Dylan gently but firmly explains that Will and RJ got into a massive, heated argument at the bar. Electra, still desperately trying to cling to her happiness, attempts to rationalize the news. She knows the two men have a rivalry, and verbal sparring is par for the course in their world. She tries to brush it off as a simple disagreement, a minor bump in the road that Will simply forgot to mention in the excitement of their reconciliation. But Dylan cannot let Electra hide behind rationalizations. The bombshell must be dropped. With a heavy heart, Dylan looks Electra directly in the eyes and reveals the brutal, unvarnished truth. Will didn't just argue with RJ, he violently sucker-punched him in the gut. The words hang in the air, sharp and devastating. Dylan explicitly details the physical assault, the sheer force of the blow, and the resulting bruised ribs that RJ is now suffering from. The revelation is a catastrophic blow to Electra's psyche. It is a moment of profound cognitive dissonance. She simply cannot reconcile the sweet, loving man who just asked her to share his home with the violent, out-of-control aggressor that Dylan is describing. Electra's immediate reaction is one of fierce, desperate denial. She shakes her head, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and betrayal. She insists that there must be some mistake, that would never do something so reckless and brutal. She wants to believe that Dylan misunderstood the situation, that RJ must have attacked first, or that the entire story is a massive exaggeration. Electra's mind frantically searches for any possible loophole that would allow her to keep her newly repaired romance intact. The thought of losing Will again, especially after they had just promised each other a future, is a pain too immense for her to process all at once. However, Dylan remains steadfast, an unwavering anchor of truth in the midst of Electra's emotional storm. Dylan softly but firmly confirms the events, insisting that there is no room for misinterpretation because she saw the entire horrifying incident with her own two eyes. She watched Will's fist connect with RJ's abdomen. She saw RJ double over in agonizing pain. As Dylan's eyewitness testimony sinks in, the walls of denial slowly begin to crumble around Electra. The devastating realization washes over her, cold and unforgiving. Will did not just commit an act of violence against her own cousin. He actively, deliberately lied to her about it, while simultaneously asking her to move in with him. The betrayal cuts deeper than the physical violence itself. Electra feels the familiar, suffocating sensation of being trapped once again in the bitter, endless crossfire between the Forrester family and the Spencer empire. Her dream of a safe harbor at the beach house evaporates, replaced by the terrifying realization that she has given her heart to a man who is capable of both brutality and profound deception. As the episode draws to a close, the audience is left to ponder the monumental consequences of this revelation. Will Spencer has already lost his prestigious career at Forrester Creations, but as Electra's tears begin to fall, it becomes agonizingly clear that his violent outburst is about to cost him the one thing he truly values, the woman he loves. The war in Los Angeles has claimed its latest casualties, and the